In California, children with disabilities are guaranteed a free education and special education services in public schools. Sometimes, though, public schools cannot meet that obligation. When this happens, California partners with private schools to provide a free education that meets the specific needs of these children. Unfortunately, California politicians are refusing to allow private religious schools to serve these students with disabilities, despite opening the program to all kinds of other private schools. This shuts out religious schools and the families who want to send their children to those schools from accessing the publicly funded services in special education that are available to everyone else. Becket is fighting in federal court for Jewish parents and their children with disabilities to go to schools offering unique religious environments that will help their children thrive. This is Yoni and Chaya Laffman. As their son with disabilities enters elementary school, they're realizing how expensive it is to pay for the special education he needs to help him succeed. I did it! Because of California's law, they are completely prevented from accessing funding that would help pay for these services.
So when he was 2 years old, the government of California actually provided speech therapy, occupational therapy, and it was great. Then our son turned 3 years old, and we were told on a very frank phone call that now that he's 3 years old, we're gonna have to go to public school to get therapies for him. And this was hard for us because we always planned to send all of our children to Orthodox private school. And we were kind of caught in this catch-22. Our son needs these therapies, but our son also needs to be in an Orthodox private school.
You hear about special needs funding in public schools, and you just assume that it would be available to a private school too. Or I guess, in fact, in this case, it is available in private school, but it's just not available to private religious schools.
The Laffmans tried paying for these services out of pocket at first, but special education isn't cheap. The bills soon began to pile up.
Dovi's private school tuition itself is $14,000 a year. That's base tuition. His therapies are upwards of $15,000 a year. So $14,000 plus $15,000, not to mention extra nanny coverage, and Dovi always needs to be one-on-one with someone else.
Speech therapy, we've elected to hold off on for now, just because it is cost prohibitive at this point.
To ensure that children with disabilities can receive an appropriate education, Congress passed a law called the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, known as the IDEA. In a nutshell, IDEA provides federal funding to public schools to provide services to students with disabilities. It also contemplates that sometimes the public schools can't adequately meet a child's needs. And in those instances, the IDEA allows the child to be placed in a private school that can meet those needs while continuing to receive publicly funded services. California politicians allowed this funding to be used at secular private schools, but blocked it from going to private religious schools, just because they are religious. And that makes it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for parents of children with disabilities to send their kids to faith-based schools while also receiving services that support their special needs. Dr. Ron Nagel is a pediatrician in Los Angeles who has many Orthodox Jewish patients. Because of California's law, he's been forced to advise families to pull their children with disabilities out of Jewish schools and to send them to schools with the means to support their special needs.
I've told these parents, I'm sorry that your children are here in the state of California with this kind of impairment, because we know that other states, there are schools where their kids can attend. And indeed, I've seen, I won't say a mass exodus, but I've seen quite a few families leaving LA, a town where there are grandparents and their families, because they know the most important thing for their kids is to get this Jewish education with a special need angle. And they've left the city.
For people of faith, and in this case, Jewish communities, schools that provide a religious environment for their children are essential for their spiritual growth and their well-being.
Jewish education is the cornerstone of Judaism.
That's Rabbi David Block. He's the principal of a Jewish day school in Los Angeles called Shalhevet High School.
Education is something that is so core to who we are. It's the way that we have carried on, that we've survived throughout the ages. So making sure that every single student has access to being able to learn those values and to learn Torah and to fulfill everything that it means to be a religious Jew in the world is absolutely vital to who we are in the world.
Rabbi Block wants to start a special education program at Shalhevet, but the school is categorically disqualified from partnering with the state because it's a sectarian school, meaning it's affiliated with a religious group.
And the fact that the only reason that we can't be an eligible school, the only reason that we can't also take on the special responsibility of working with those students is because we're religious, because we're a sectarian school. What a shame that is.
We are here to discuss fairness. Today, we are here to discuss the right of a parent to choose the best education for their child.
In July of 2023, Maury Litwack of the Orthodox Union, along with parents and education advocates, gathered outside a federal court in Los Angeles to support the Loffmans in their case against California's law.
I think the thing that surprises people the most is the fact that private schools are getting this funding, as long as they're not religious. I don't know why that would exist in California. I don't know why it exists in America.
The Supreme Court has recently affirmed that public benefits open to private secular organizations must also be open to private religious ones. Private religious schools should be allowed to serve children with disabilities, just like private secular schools already do. And religious parents should have the same opportunity as non-religious parents to send their children to the school that best meets their child's needs.
California's policy is wrong because it's depriving children of the services that they need in the right environment. And ultimately, the children are losing out. These kids should be getting all the therapies they need to succeed. Their families should be comfortable in the environment where they're learning. It should be a situation where the kids are set up for success. We're hoping that California is going to recognize that and change their practices.